Well, good afternoon,
Wow.
everybody. It worked the first time.
Yay. That's amazing. I don't know if you can see it in my eyes, my face kind of lit up like, wow, it
I
worked.
I I can't believe it worked either. I'm telling y'all, Zoom has something. It's either Zoom or Facebook. I haven't decided yet, but one of them has it out for me. Either way. But thanks for tuning in to Living in the Texas Hill Country for episode 21. That's what I put. I think it's episode 21. Or it's either 20 or 21.
Sounds right. I don't know. We can go back and check.
We are in the 20s. So y'all have been hanging with us for like doing the maths. I shouldn't have tried to do math. Five
But
months.
yeah,
5 months now. So obviously, I don't know. We were talking before we hopped on that it's finally gotten cold here in Texas. Like it's reached the entirety of Texas. Um, so we figured we might as well talk about winterizing your property because that's something, fortunately, here in Texas, we don't get, well, at least in the hill, well, more so in the hill country probably than where I'm at, but we don't get too many terribly, terribly cold days. But if it does happen, you definitely want to make sure that your property is well winterized to save you some money on PVC pipes and all sorts of other fun plumbing equipment. So we have Taryn with us today. So I think, yeah, this is the first time we've had you on, right, Taryn?
Yes, this is the first one.
So yeah, so Taryn, you want to give yourself a little introduction, introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So my name's Terrence Titsworth. I'm the county agent in Medina County down here in Hondo. But don't let that fool you. I grew up in Comfort, Texas, right down the road from Blanco County, rivals with Blanco. Very familiar with the hill country. But yeah, I'm an ag agent and deal with livestock, uh, row crops, all that good stuff. So happy to be on.
yes. Taryn is kind of we all say that we're a jack of all trades and master at none, but I think Taryn really embodies the jack of all trades part of it. So he's got a good wheelhouse of different things. So he gets lots of phone calls from us newer agents.
Good or bad or otherwise. So obviously, so growing up in the hill country, like you're pretty obviously familiar with winterizing things. It, like I said, it does get a little bit colder up there than it does down here in, I'll say, though Hondo, Uvalde, we're kind of like right on that brink of the hill country, so we do get a little bit colder, but not quite as cold up there.
Right. And the hill country winters, they're the epitome of Texas winter, right? I mean, you can have 80 degrees one day and the next day you're below freezing and you're scrambling because, oh, I wasn't prepared. I didn't cover my wife's plant. She's gonna take me out back and put me in the doghouse, or
Are you
pipes are
speaking from
broken.
experience on that one, Taryn?
No, no,
Not
I'm
at
good.
all.
I watch the weather.
So I guess I mean I don't really know where's a good place to start in regards to sort of winterizing your property. I guess we'll start with like pipes and all the plumbing stuff because plants are important, don't get me wrong. But plants aren't going to cost you a lot of money and damages if they freeze.
Right. Right. Well, and I mean, uh, a lot of folks kind of overthink it in my mind. If you got outdoor pipes, right, we should be wrapping those things. And if you think it's wrapped enough, with insulation, wrap it one more time. Just do your diligence there because you don't want to be doing, we all went through 2021, the snowmageddon, and some of us were probably down on our knees crying with the amount of pipe that we were having to fix. So let's not relive that. I mean, just go ahead and just make sure we're wrapping pipes. The water troughs. That's the other thing that a lot of folks overthink. They might, oh, we need to buy these water troughs that are made for Wyoming winters and it costs $800 to do that. When in reality, I mean, we don't. 2021 was, different,
An
but
exception.
an exception to the rule, but at the same time, maybe you don't have to do that. Maybe you just go get a trough heater from one of the feed stores, or you might look goofy, but throw a soccer ball in a water trough, and yeah, that's not going to stop it from freezing, but it helps move the water and it makes it harder to freeze. And if you've broken enough ice in water troughs, wherever that ball's sitting, it might be frozen underneath it, but it's a lot easier to break through that ice than it is to break through 2 inches of ice.
So when you talked about wrapping pipes, so what are some materials that either you personally have found that works, or materials that you found that you're like, please, like that one of those, like, of course, like social media and like all the things, like people have the like life hacks that are not really life hacks. They just make your life probably a little bit harder. Are there certain materials that people should maybe go towards versus others that they should maybe avoid?
Yeah, growing up, my dad was a carpenter, and so he always brought things home from the job site. I don't know if I'm ratting him out or something, but anyhow, we would always have some insulation laying around, and really, to me, that's the best way to go about it. Unless just go get some of that standard insulation that you'd have in your house, and wrap it, and just use some electrical tape, and make sure it's tight to where it's not going to fly off when these northerns blow in, because God knows it's ripping when it comes in, and so make sure it's secure around those pipes. I've seen. I've seen a lot of different things with people having these theories about we're going to insulate the pipes this way. One of the best ones I saw was they had gone through enough effort to make like an additional pipe around the pipe and put hay in there to insulate it. And in theory, I guess it could work. That's a
Yeah.
lot of extra steps.
That is. Well, then it's like, I guess you could just leave it on all year round, but then yeah, you have to replace, I don't know, that just
Yeah, and you could, I mean, in the spots where like, okay, it's gonna always be a problem, spray foam insulation works too. I mean, we have areas where we spray foamed it, but I still wrap it because again, I don't like fixing pipe. I don't like fixing plastic pipe, PVC pipe, just regular metal pipe. It's just mm, not fun.
I don't think, and that's the thing is, of course, when the pipes break, it's cold, you're dealing with water, so it's like you're wet, you're cold, and generally speaking, plumbing is in the like absolute teeniest, tiniest of spaces that you can't move around in. And I just like kudos to plumbers because and you're at weird angles too. Like it does not seem like a fun time. So yes, taking that extra like 2 minutes will save you an extra like hour and a bunch of headaches and money at the end of the
Well,
day.
and that's the thing too. Don't forget your well house, because that's where everything goes, comes from. And I have a friend who didn't practice good precautions. He didn't have a heat lamp on in his well house during Snowmageddon. I think it cost him somewhere to the tune of like $24,000, which really stings because he locked his well head up. And heat lamps are great to have in there, but if you have a heat lamp that maybe was around when your grandpa was born, or growing up, or when you were born, probably time to replace it. Don't take a risk there, and then you're going to burn your well house down. Then you got a completely separate issue.
I like that you brought up the heat lamps because I think that's something that a lot of people ask about is with their poultry, maybe they have backyard chickens or even a small herd of goats or something like that. Um, a lot of folks want to use heat lamps to keep their animals warm at night. And I guess before I actually ask you about heat lamps, what what about sheltering? I know me personally, my chickens, they don't care if I think the lowest it's gotten in my house is 25 and they really didn't care. So I guess what's your thoughts on it or protocol? What do you think about sheltering?
I mean, sheltering, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, right? I've seen it work where, thankfully, we're in the hill country. We're not like the panhandle where we have these straight line winds that are blowing 40 miles an hour all the time, all day long. Uh, But you can use brush lines, just that goes into your brush management. You can make brush lines that block that north wind. I've seen folks in the hill country use cedar breaks to do that. If you're gonna go and build something, it doesn't have to be something fancy, as long as that it has a break between mainly that north wind. Ideally, if you can get it, depending on where your prevalent winds are coming from, your place better than I'm going to, or some of us are going to know. But building a wall there, you can build a barn, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you have a barn, just make sure that you have airflow going through those, because we don't want to draft, but we also don't want to be in a situation where we have livestock in those barns and we're building up, ammonia, and we're building up all these different if you got a heater in that barn, you're building up carbon monoxide. You last thing you want to do is walk out to a bunch of dead animals in that barn. And quite frankly, what I figured out with goats and sheep, it's what I'm kind of familiar with from growing up there, is we could build the biggest, fanciest barn that we want to, and I could have a lean-to somewhere else. And as long as that lean-to has a break between the north and them, they're going to go to that lean-to, and they're not going to go to the barn. It's just, it, unless my sheep are just not smart, but they just like that better because there's plenty of ventilation going through it.
I will say with livestock, like, doesn't matter what livestock, horses, cows, like, you give them like something, I hate to say, like, really nice, and they're not gonna utilize it. Like, they're gonna just, people are always, I know people always freak out. It's like, well, like, horses or cows are standing out in the rain. It's like, yeah, they have a lean-to or like a run-in shed, and they just want to stand out in the rain or whatever. And it's like, I provided them. I can't, it's like, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing, is making sure, even if you put bedding, which you should be putting bedding down for them, to help keep, especially during this time of the year, winter. We're kind of moving to calving season, and some of us with sheep that run in different programs, you might be having lambs on the ground. They're going to wait till it's the coldest day of the year, and you don't want to be without having that bedding there that helps keep them warm. But
So
yeah,
what is some bedding wise, what is some good bedding versus bad bedding? Is there any such thing as like bad bedding for livestock?
I guess,
Or better choices maybe than others? Not
That's a
bad,
good way
just
to
better
put it.
choices.
yeah. I mean, I've seen them use anywhere from cardboard shavings, which are just boxes that have been shredded up, to straw, to just regular old just pine shavings that you get at the down at the feed store. I think for me personally, I've always used straw, and just those regular old pine shavings, because I mean they're readily available. Yeah, you might have some that are going to try to eat the shavings. I've never had problems with the straw. There's no really nutritional
Value.
value, so they're not going to spend a lot of time chewing on it. They might chew on it a little bit, but you're not going to eat it all up. And it makes it easier to you know it makes it easier to clean up, because you do need to be changing that bedding. And while like the pelleted shavings that you get and watered down, those look really nice, but until you've spent a day just scooping that stuff off the ground, it's about like separating cement from the soil. It's pretty tough. So I would just lean with that straw and those pine shavings. And if you want to go your own route, as long as you can keep some sort of material around them that keeps them warm, that absorbs that heat. But like I said, I would stick to the straw and the pine shavings. Just keep it simple, you know.
So I guess, oh gosh, I had my train of thought and it left me. Oh, so obviously providing, someplace warm, dry for them to go. Also, I've heard this, so tell me if it's true or not, is that as long as you keep, especially ruminants, you keep them fed, that is one way to make sure that they stay nice and warm. Basically, like their rumen is they see a little heater for them. So making sure they constantly have food when it's cold outside will also to help keep them nice and toasty.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're feeding regular old feed, that's one thing, and it'll help them keep them a little warm. Kind of going in the winter time, we start moving into some of those higher protein hays, your alfalfas of the world, and some of your higher protein feeds. Any of these feed stores usually carry some good mixes of high protein feeds, and that's really going to start helping them keep them warm. In the other breath, though, we also want to make sure, I guess I'm going to get a little off topic here. We want to make sure
Okay,
that
we do it all the time. Don't worry about it.
all right, well, that's great. Scatterbrains just come together. Now, in the other breath, going into wintertime, we want to make sure that our livestock, are not, when we look at their body condition, we want to make sure they're not terribly skinny and they're not terribly fat. Because, I mean, the fat ones aren't going to have a terrible issue making it through the winter. But again, if we're talking like calving or lambing or kidding out or anything like that, they're going to have troubles. On the other side of that spectrum, if they're super skinny, you're going to be upping your feed bill just to try to put fat on those animals, getting them into the winter, or much less if we're now in the winter time. Now we're having to spend a ton of money extra on keeping that livestock alive and making sure they get the energy they even make it through the winter time. Um, but yeah, no, that's certainly true. Going back to your question about, I mean, the rumin's a crazy work of nature, and it is fantastic. It is one of those. I don't want to call it a tool, but it's a nice way to try to keep your animals warm if you're just practicing good animal husbandry.
So, okay, so we kind of touched on, and I know Carly kind of brought this up, is so with so chickens basically having a heat lamp, but then also making sure that they stay out of sort of the wind a little bit, ruminants, again, shavings, feeding them, keeping them nice and dry. Um, what are some good ways if, say, you have a kid or a calf born, or even just a cow that just isn't I'll say doing well, or they do get cold? Like, what are some ways that you can try to help them if it does, without potentially calling the vet first? Saving yourself a couple of hundred, if not thousands of dollars, trying to
Yeah,
do it yourself first. And at what point do you say, okay, it is now time to call the vet?
yeah. I mean, obviously you're gonna single that animal out, right? And you're gonna put. I've seen people bring them in the houses, as a last minute. I've done. I say seen. I've done the same thing. I mean, don't judge me, but I've brought animals in the house. Certainly lambs that I was a little concerned that weren't going to make it. But one of the things that I utilized back in 2021, I was stuck with a 4-H family in Barksdale, America. And if you've ever been to Barksdale, America, there's not a lot going on out
Oh,
there. Uh, and so we were stuck out there, and they had Angora goats, and they just happened to be kidding out during all of that. And
That's
so,
convenient.
I was
oh,
gonna say that, and every other sheep, goat, cattle that were anywhere close to the end of their gestation, they were kidding out at that time
They're
or
like,
calving.
oh
today's
yeah.
a good day.
It, it, and one of the tools that I figured out um, to use was those hyper. I had a first aid kit with me that had one of the hyperthermia, the emergency blankets
Mm.
in it. And I tell you what, that actually ended up saving several of those kids, just getting them into a house, getting their core temperature back up, and progressively just turning them back out. But if they're showing signs that if they're going downhill, they're not getting any better. I mean, because at that point, really, most of the time, all we can do is try to warm them up, whether that be bring them in a warm barn. If they're still messed up, the best thing during the wintertime, and well, best practice in general, is to have your vet's phone number. It never hurts. Sometimes we can't save them all with the things that we have available to us at the house. And so it doesn't hurt to go and save that animal. I guess some of it comes down to are you willing to pay or not. I guess I'm a softie. I'm willing to pay the extra money to try to save one. But again, if they're going downhill, you see them doing that. Uh, not movement, more lethargic. We want to try to get them somewhere warm, warm them up. Uh, again, that blanket, I it works so well that I've bought several of those blankets now. I have one in my truck, one in my house here in Hondo, and one at the house in Comfort, and they're $4 a pop. And so it's a pretty simple, cheap way to
See,
build that core temperature back up. And again, you can use it on a calf, a kid. You can use it on a full grown cow, and heck, you can use it on yourself. We get cold too. So
see, and that's one of those where I've seen them in first aid kits. I know what they are. I've never actually used one myself, and you kind of look at it and you're like, it's just this like, I guess it's metal. I don't really know. Is it plastic? Is it metal? What is it made of? I have no idea what it's actually made of. But
I it's kind of like an aluminum of sorts,
yeah.
and how it works is it picks up it does a far better job of picking up sunlight than a blanket does. And so it picks that sunlight up, and your temperature, any heat you're putting out, that heat's not escaping because it's not porous. And so your heat's not escaping, it's picking up the sunlight. Hopefully, if you got sunlight,
Yeah, right.
and it's bringing your temperature back up. But yeah, it's like it's
It's an
almost like
oven.
aluminum.
It's a little
It
oven.
must be yeah, that's exactly right. I actually tried it out after that, and well, yeah, it'll make you sweat just a little bit.
I don't, maybe they need to start lining jackets with that, like the
Yes.
really heavy, but I guess it's probably not very washer friendly. I'm assuming.
Mm,
Well, and I was gonna say you can, part of this is taking care of yourself too, and I guess we can't say brand names on here, but I have a jacket that has that material built into the liner of it, and it's super lightweight. That's the thing that I love about it. Now it's bright
mm.
yellow. It's bright yellow.
Obnoxious yellow.
Oh yeah, you're gonna find me. Stick out like a sore thumb, but man, it keeps you warm.
Yeah,
It's
and I have a jacket that's it has mine's not like yellow, but it has a bunch of like little dots, and yeah, it's supposed to like reflect your body heat back. I don't know if it actually does or not. I mean, the jacket's fairly warm, but yeah, it's like a thinner, mine's a thinner jacket. So I'm
Mhm.
sure there's several brands that probably have the same technology,
Yeah.
but I don't think it works quite as well as like the actual blanket. At least the one I have does not work quite as well as the blanket would. I'd probably be
Well,
nice. See, I'm the type of person that like it's 70 degrees. If I've been cold all morning and it's 70 degrees outside, you
I saw
can
the
bet
jacket
your
on.
bottom I am still like bundled up and I will not take it off until I'm like borderline sweating.
Yes. I'm the same way.
Um, so one question I have is, I know people with hypothermia, like you get to a point where you stop shivering, which I'm sure is the same thing with livestock. But I know another thing is like humans will turn kind of blue in certain areas, like your lips or
Mm.
whatever can kind of turn a little bit blue. Can livestock, like if you were to like look on the inside, obviously they're covered in fur, so you can't see their lips changing color. But will you see like a color change in like their eyes, like if you were to like turn their eye lid down or like their lips? Do you know if they like change color?
I've never, if they do,
Experiment. We're
I,
gonna find out
I'm about to say,
next time it happens.
if they do, I guess if anything gets cold enough, if you have exposed skin, we're all gonna kind of have those same symptoms, right?
Yeah.
With the skin starting to lose oxygen in that area. But um, yeah, I've always kind of just looked for more for that that being lethargic, just keeping an eyeball on them. If you know your animals, and as you spend more time around your livestock, you get to know them better and know their behaviors, and so that's, we start looking, okay, well, this is off. Why is it just kind of, it hasn't moved? In the wintertime, they're needing feed. Why hasn't it come up to get food? Keeping an eye on that type of stuff. Another thing that we kind of didn't talk about in the shelter, um, if that animal's wet,
Mm.
making sure, keeping an eye on there, because we're in Texas and the hill country. We get snow occasionally. It never sticks, but it might land on a goat, might land on a cow, sheep, whatever, and it's going to melt. And get wet, and that's another thing we should be looking for, is making sure. Oh, okay, this one's soaked. We ought to go probably try to dry it if you can catch it. Now, if you can't, you might not be able to do much there, but making sure they're dry, and then keeping an eye out for those lethargic symptoms, a lot of shivering going on, things of that nature. Kind of like the old meme that they had on Facebook for years: if you're cold, they're cold. Bring them inside. Uh,
And it's
they're
like a
hard.
raccoon.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think that's a good point. That is like, if like a lot of people see pictures of animals with like snow, like they're covered in snow. But if they're covered in snow, it's actually kind of a good thing. It means they're well insulated. They're actually warm, like huskies.
Yep.
That's why you see
Okay.
huskies laying outside and they're just like coated in
They
snow.
love it.
But they're happy as a clam because they have like their fur is like perfect. Like it keeps them nice and warm and is insulating them from the snow. So they're warm, but the body heat staying there, not escaping out to melt
Right.
the
Yeah.
snow. So if your livestock have snow on them,
They're
they're
probably
good.
fine.
If they don't have snow on them and it's been snowing a while, they might be a little wet. They might be a
Yeah.
little cold.
Yeah, no, and everybody sees sheep and they'll be like, oh, wool sheep thing is, I don't want to say it's going away. I certainly love my wool sheep. But they'll see them, oh, they're fine. They got wool. They got 5 inches of wool. That's good insulation. Well, it's great insulation when it's not wet, you know.
Sure.
um, and with that wind picking up and blowing onto them, that temperature is gonna drop pretty quick, pretty drastically. But
And I think that's also a good point is with people is you kind of mentioned taking care of yourself and definitely making sure that you have good clothes. And I don't know if y'all have ever heard this saying, like me in the outdoor, like being outdoorsy a lot, we always say like cotton kills. Like cotton is the type of material you don't warm, like clothing wise, cotton's not the best warm material. If it gets wet, you are going to get cold.
yeah,
You are going to get cold, and it will obviously, if you have your house just down the road, not a big deal. But if you're out in it a long time, don't wear cotton. Get synthetics. Um, will keep you warmer. Wool will keep you better, warmer when it's wet than cotton will. Cotton will not keep you warm
no,
at all.
yeah, yeah.
There's something else I was gonna say. Oh, how often when it is cold outside, should you be checking livestock more often than you would say in the summer or any other time of year?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the 40s, we need to be checking, at least once or twice. I always make a habit of trying to check twice a day. Now, when you start getting into these real cold snaps, it certainly doesn't hurt to be going and making several trips out there, 4 or 5 times a day if you have the time. If you got a good neighbor, maybe that can just check them for you and say, well, this one doesn't look like it's feeling great. We want to keep our eyes on them. Between the summertime and the wintertime, that's when things are more likely to go sideways on us. And so, get out there as often as you can, if you can, um, you know, because there's not only are you checking your livestock, you're going to your shelters, you're making sure they're ventilated, you're checking your pipes. You need to be checking waters, on these days where it gets really, really cold. I remember being in San Angelo, and my first day of work was on a goat operation, and I think I spent my entire day breaking out water troughs.
Oh, no.
And so, it would take a few hours and then that water be frozen again. So and at that point I didn't think the soccer ball thing was a great idea. I kind of, we care more about the look sometimes than we do the functionality of things. And we ended up getting it all lined out, but yeah, checking them as often as you can. Probably upping it from just your regular checks. You want to get a set of eyes on them at least twice a day, if not three times.
And then when you're going out, obviously, like you said, counting all your numbers, making sure everyone's there. If you can't find somebody, first check, like, okay, maybe, whatever, but second check, if you can't find them, probably need to maybe go on a hunt for them, because there might be something going on, especially if it's Bessie that is always there when you go to spread cubes or whatever, and she's not there. There's probably something amiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I was kind of highlight there is, up in the hill country, we have predation problems, obviously. And if you are running a small ruminant operation or something of that nature, maybe not on your cattle, you still need to be checking them. But the predators are on the move. They start moving around, and when you find, and this kind of goes back to keeping an eye on things. But if I'm a coyote and I find these sheep that are bundled up in a pen, and it's not well enclosed to where I can get in as a coyote, I got me a snack. And so keeping an eye out for your predators too is a big thing, because that might be where old Delilah disappeared to. She might have got by a coyote, and we probably need to be doing some predation preventative techniques out there.
Sure.
Yes, and definitely, winter is definitely when predators thrive, because you think about it, not maybe necessarily our livestock, because we, feed them all the time, but a lot of times, especially you go up to like Wyoming, or even probably even the Panhandle, not a lot of vegetation. Ruminants are having to work a lot harder to get their food, or to stay warm. And yeah, they do tend to huddle up for warmth. They're not quite as active, so they do make a slightly easier target for predators. So yes, that is definitely a very good point, that yeah, predators are definitely more on the move. That is when they're at their peak, when they get all their nice little tasty snacks, much to our dismay. Um, okay, I'm trying to think. So we touched on kind of keeping your house, all your plumbing stuff. Oh, I guess one question is with that. I always heard that with some of your faucets, like letting them drip when it's cold outside, like faucet wise, is there any good way to winterize some of those, or any recommendations? I know there's several brands out there that you can get that, like, it's like a little fixture that freezes, or like screws onto like the end of your pipe, and like doesn't let it freeze. I mean, is there a good way to keep your faucets from freezing if you have any out in the pasture?
Yeah, I mean, it gets into the You can insulate you can only insulate so much.
Yep.
Uh, and the idea behind that is you can drip your faucets, and that's one thing. You keep your water moving, and it's harder to freeze that way too. That's why traditionally a lot of folks have done it. Some of these new companies that have gotten out there that well, some of the new companies that have gotten out there, I use their devices too, on our faucets throughout our ranch. And it's because when you leave one dripping all the time, one, first and foremost, we're Texans, we love our water. You're getting into some water waste there. And then the second part of that is you're creating a mud hole. And livestock, again, being that they just love punking us as livestock owners, they will find that mud hole, and they'll go, give birth in that mud hole, and then now you're digging the mud hole. Whereas those other devices, the way what I like about them is they only release water once it gets below a certain freezing point, or below freezing. That way we're not wasting water, and we're creating mud, but we're not creating a mud hole per se. and they've saved us quite a bit of headaches over the years since they started coming out with them.
And I know they're pretty. I know we've looked at several for like around our place, and I mean, they're pretty pricey, but they're worth it. Thus far, they've been worth it.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, is would you rather deal with just whatever that upfront cost is? I mean, I don't think I can't even remember what they call it. Anyhow, but would you rather deal with that, or would you rather deal with, now I got to go to town and get a new faucet, or I got to get some new pipe or whatever, and you might not always be able to do that.
Especially during like Snowmageddon, like you could not get PVC pipe anywhere.
Yes.
No, you could not. Uh, and that kind of goes into your talk, mention that, but on your feed supplies too, making sure
Mm,
you're decked out with feed. You can overbuy, but you can't underbuy. If you under or
It's true.
if
this
you
is true.
underbuy, you're going to end up in a world of hurt. A lot of us live out in rural parts of the hill country. Maybe not all of us, but if you're out on those hills, don't know if you tried going up any of those hills during Snowmageddon, but it wasn't very easy. Not in a pickup, you might be able to hike to town, but that's going to take a lot of trips carrying 50-pound bags.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so okay, is this a thing here in Texas? Growing up in Pennsylvania, like if there was a snowstorm, it was like everyone ran to the store to get like milk and bread and I think maybe eggs. Like, is that a thing here in Texas that if it like freezes, like everyone freaks out and like they're like, I gotta get milk and I think it was milk and eggs or milk and butter. It was milk and not milk and butter. Oh my gosh. Milk and bread. Is that like a thing? Or am I just y'all have no idea what I'm talking about? It's like
No,
the
yeah.
equivalent of that. It's like make sure you're well provisioned before it comes. So that way when it does come, you're good. You have enough bread to make peanut butter and jelly till the
Yes.
cows come home.
Oh yeah.
I grew up in super East Texas, so we got hurricanes all the time. And so now that, I feel like maybe a little bit more frequently we've gotten ice scares or storms or whatever. But for hurricanes, you prep with water, uh, canned things like canned tuna, raviolis, like whatever you can find that's quick and easy. You don't have to heat up, and bread, of course. So I feel like maybe in East Texas, they just kind of buy the same thing that they buy for what they would for hurricane prep.
It's just slightly different.
Oh
But I
God,
guess
forbid.
over here,
You got kerosene. Well, we used a lot of kerosene heaters, and yeah, it becomes a awesome scavenger hunt. Let me tell you.
Hmm.
Go out looking, but kind of talking on that too. I know we're going to run out of time here pretty quick. The generators are pretty important, and a lot of people are starting
Mhm.
worried about the fuel. There's certain brands out there that now are solar powered that are fantastic. I mean,
Mm,
I have one. Actually, a buddy of mine just set one up on his hunting blind, and it's similar to a small house. You can just turn some lights.
nice.
Oh, it's one of
No
those where
big
it
deal.
probably has like a bed and like a fridge and like you're perfectly comfy to like,
Yeah,
Just stay there.
hang out in there all day. There's a TV set up.
that's exactly it. He'll text me and say, "Oh, hunting," and I'm like, "You're looking in your backyard of your guest house." Uh, making sure all that make sure everything works. Make sure you don't need new batteries for that drill or that skill saw, because you never know.
Mhm.
You just never know
That's a good
what's.
point.
That is a very good point. Is yeah, making sure because yeah, if you lose power and you don't have a generator, then yeah. So those okay, I'm curious. Those solar power generators, do they like run about the same as like a
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
or
they're
is it a
really
little
not
bit more
terrible.
expensive?
They're really not terrible. I think the one that he got was like a $300-$400 generator.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, you buy the solar panels. The one that I just ordered is $167, and now that one's not made to power a house or power,
Sure.
anything like that. But phones are pretty important to have during that, not
Mhm.
for watching TikTok, but maybe calling emergencies
Yep.
of that nature. Um, and so that's not a bad thing to have on hand. I know a guy that's down here that bought, I can't remember the old school Christmas lights that wrap his fruit trees with them to keep it.
Mhm.
And he was worried about the same thing. And so far, it's worked. He got used the solar powered one, and good thing about that too is you're not worrying about emissions. You know,
Hmm.
anything getting out there hurting your stock or you,
Yep. And yeah, you can never, as long as the sun is out, you're never going to run out of power.
exactly. Exactly.
But all right, well, we're coming close to the 1 o'clock hour. I know I have to run to a meeting after this. Anything else that you wanted to cover, Taryn, that we forgot to ask? I mean, I realize we've covered a wide array of different things today.
Yeah, I would just close it with, winterizing isn't about, buying all the fancy equipment. Um, it's about having a plan, a good plan going into it. A lot of the times when we lose stock, it's not because the producer didn't care. It's because that cold got there and the plan took a lot of time to go into motion. So having that plan and knowing your plan, um, is not only going to save you headaches, it's going to save your stock. It might save you some money down the road. And I guess heat lamps. I was going to mention that we talked about.
Oh, yeah, I never went back to that. I guess, like real quick, less than a minute. Do you have any like major safety tips or what not to do?
Yeah, don't touch them. Don't connect mount them to wood. Don't mount them to anything that's flammable. Keep them about 18 inches to 24 inches away from anything that's flammable. Make sure that you're inspecting your cords and that the livestock can't reach those or
Mhm.
any for that nature. Those bulbs are burning depending on the wattage from 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 500, and so it can cause a fire in a hurry. So make
Sure.
sure you put a cage on that bulb.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, so winter, I guess I don't know, is winter like officially here? Have we crossed the first official day of winter? I don't know. I didn't look. I didn't have a notification saying first day of winter at any point, but we're in December, so surely it's
Maybe
past.
since we've had more than 2 days of like kind of cold, maybe it's technically winter.
There we
That's
go.
exactly it. Summer and winter. That's it.
All right, Taryn. Well, we
Well,
greatly
thank
appreciate,
you.
yeah, we greatly appreciate you have coming on to speak
Mhm.
with us today. Um, but yeah, we will see y'all next week. So y'all have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See y'all. Thank y'all.